And great, we are recording. So good morning, everyone. Today is Friday, January 17th. This is the Tillicum Principal Chat. We have a number of people here on campus in the cafe, and it looks like we've got about 7 or 8 people online right now. So good morning and happy Friday. All right, let's see. I am sharing up there, so let me go to the next slide or so. As we always do, the purpose of these chats is to be able to increase and build relationship. If you've known me at all, you know relationships are what I believe are the most important thing on the planet. And so I really enjoy being an educator to build relationships with kids, to build relationships with staff and with families. So this is an opportunity to do that. And it has two purposes: to increase parent knowledge of your kids' school experience, because you aren't with them every day, but then also to increase my knowledge as I interface with my staff and students. Today, we'll talk about a couple of things. One, end of the first semester, kind of grading, some things and how we support our kids with the end of the semester, where we get some finality, especially for our 8th graders and even 7th graders that might be earning high school credit in some of their courses. And then we'll answer some questions. Got a couple of questions that were submitted to me, and so be able to do a little of both of that. I always like to start by just to do introductions. And as I said before, Dusty Steere, principal here at Tillicum Middle School. If you would take a moment and just introduce yourself here in person to the person next to you, tell your name, your child and their grade. Maybe something you did over a winter break, a highlight. If you are online, if you would also just drop your name and your child's name in the chat. I would love to say hello. So take a moment, greet those around you. All right? Already, still Megan. All right. Great. Fantastic. For those of you who are online, hopefully you are doing a little introduction, and I just realized I had my microphone off. So for those of you online, if you could just drop into the chat a note that tells me that yes, you can hear. So give me a thumbs up or a, yeah, you can hear what I'm saying if you are joining us online. All right, looks like got a thumbs up. Great. Okay, they can hear me online. Fantastic. Those of us here in person, we did our introductions. Happy New Year to everyone. Good morning to the Henderson family. I see Carmel is here with Noah. Good morning, Alex. Good morning. Austin's dad, 6th grade. Okay, wonderful. Well, fantastic. Love doing these hybrid things. Managing all this technology. Let me come back here to the people because we just added a couple more people. All right. Fantastic. Okay, well, good morning and welcome, everyone. Well, I kind of skip ahead. Something I always like to do as well is to just recognize that this is a not only a principal chat, but it really also has the purpose of being a parent and a PTA sponsored piece. So I'm going to invite up our PTA president, Kylie. I'll give you a little microphone as well. You can hold this up and you can see that, yeah, you're right there. So good morning, Kylie. Tell us what's going on in the community.
Okay, there's a few things for everybody to take note. So let's see, the first thing is just be aware of what's going on in our district of the budget issue. There's a lot of emails going out from Dr. Aramaki, emails from the BSD, from PTA. Just be aware because it's not only our district, it's actually a statewide thing going on now. So if everybody can be aware, we can help the budget crisis that's going on now. Another thing that we have going on, a couple save the dates. In March, we're going to do our annual fundraiser for the Tillicum night at the Mariners game. And typically our choir sings the national anthem for the opening night. And then we sell tickets for a fundraiser for our school, but also our community can go and cheer on our choir and enjoy the game. So look out for the more information for ticket prices and the actual date, because we're not sure if it's opening weekend on the 22nd or sometime around there. The 8th grade party, some of us have already started planning. Parents, be aware of information going out if you want to help out. Save the date for Thursday, June 12th, 6 to 8. Nighttime event. It's free for all 8th graders. It's a time to celebrate their last hurrah at Tillicum. Location is to be determined. We have a survey going out right now for 8th graders, so they have a say on what they want to see happen for their party.
Cool.
Let's see. We also have the Lunar New Year event coming out on the 31st.
I have a little.
Oh, perfect.
I got future events. Let's see what we have here. So
skipping ahead a little bit.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a huge event. They've got a lot of fun things planned. It's free. Everyone is welcome. Food, entertainment, activities, and so it's a lot of the Tillicum community, Jingmei, PTA, everybody around this area. We want to come and enjoy this event.
Fantastic. Look forward to that.
Let's see. Kind of a side note with our REIT, which is our Racial Equity Inclusion Committee, and in partnership with the PTA. We have a few things we want to do. One of them is the cultural wall adoption. If parents want to adopt a display case in the hallways, it's an opportunity to share your culture with the community, and so that students have pride in their own culture and can share with their classmates. But the idea is just to kind of open up the awareness of what our community is like, the diversity that we have here, and it's fun to look at new things in the hallway. I've heard that kids always look and see and notice when new things happen in the display cases. So in our PTA newsletter, we'll have more guidelines on what you can do and how you can reach out to us. But basically, you can share about your cultural food and put up a poster, or maybe have a story that relates to your family particularly, or just a holiday, anything. It's open to what you would like to share. And the idea is to do monthly showcases, or depending how many people want to participate, it can be more often than that. And then also the REI team is kind of asking the community, what are some things that they're wanting information about? We're going to be doing another talk or educational night like we did with the technology night. And it's probably going to be in the same night as our general membership meeting, so that we can all learn something and also be updated on what's going on with the community. So our next general membership meeting is on Monday, March 10th it's probably going to be a 6 o'clock event if we're doing a shared event, but we want to hear from the community on what they want to learn as far as grades or end of year activities or fundraising initiatives. So if you guys can email the PTA, let Stephanie, our assistant principal, know of the types of topics you want to learn about, that would be helpful for us to accommodate the community.
Cool.
And then the last thing is our finance.
Okay, yeah, and I actually have a little slide up there, so I'm going to invite Paul up, our president from last year. Hail to the chief, come on up. Yeah, so as you said, upcoming events, the Lunar New Year celebration, and then Paul, you want to share a little bit about finance camp? I kind of put some of the details up, and let's get you over here. Oh yeah, right. I can see you.
Hi, good morning, everybody. So the finance camp, we were able to have this event thanks to the sponsorship of a local accounting company, BPM, and then the help of a lot of volunteers. Personal finance is a very important part of success in life and happiness, and we like this program to supplement the kind of knowledge that we learn from school. It'll be a series of 6 sessions after school, Mondays and Thursdays, starting from March 10th and then ending on March 27th. It'll be at school from 3:05 to 4 p.m. We'll cover a lot of personal finance topics through games. So the kids will kind of do some simulations and play games and learn things through those games about budgeting, about investing, about macroeconomics, all sorts of topics.
Love
So
it.
and it's the first time we're doing this, so we're still experimenting, but please join us.
Wow, that is fantastic, Paul. I appreciate that. I am as a former math teacher, I'm a huge fan of just financial literacy, and I feel like most Americans have like no financial literacy, and it's a shame that we don't really teach more financial literacy. And so, what a cool opportunity! And I really look forward to seeing what's at. I'll probably pop in and do a few of those myself. So, thank you. Before we kind of launch into a little bit of today's like topics that I was going to share end of semester, I want to just pause for a moment to see if anyone here has questions about PTA activities, anyone online, anything you want to ask about either of Kylie, myself. Yes. Yep. Yeah, the question is how do kids sign up for finance camp? And so as part of the PTA newsletter, as well as probably in our newsletter that goes student announcements, we will put up an MS Forms link. And so I think everyone is supposed to sign up by, what does it say? Everyone should sign up by like February 24th. And then if we get way too many kids, potentially we might add a second session, or we may need to do a lottery to determine, how many kids can participate. So. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah, we may find that we get way more than 20 students interested, and if so, we'll have to either figure out how to respond. But yeah, really grateful for our PTA and for Paul and the community to be able to put something together that will not only provides an after-school activity for kids, keeps them occupied, but with something really valuable. So, and good snacks. Oh my gosh. As soon as you say snacks, you're gonna like probably get 80 kids. Yep, here, let's do that again. Come on.
So I was just going to add from the BPM, I'm not sure what it stands for, but BPM gave us a huge grant for this opportunity. So we can do a lot of things with this going forward. So we just want to shout out to them for giving us the grant. We can, provide snacks for the students and any supplies that we need for this opportunity.
Yeah. Fantastic. As we do this, it is good for us to think about how we provide snacks, making sure that the students that do attend, like we just want to be allergy aware. But middle school kids are usually pretty good with that. But something good for us to think about in a parent-run activity. All right. Any other questions related to PTA activities? Lots of fun things coming on. All right. Well, then what I'd like to do is take a few minutes just to share some information about the end of the semester. And so today is January 17th. The end of the semester is on Friday, January 31st. That actually got moved back a week because of the bomb cyclone and missed 3 days of school and needing to kind of balance out first and second semester. So we have 2 weeks left. And as a parent, this is a really good time, if we haven't already, to try to support student learning. And some of it is like, ideally, we would have been doing this all along, but it's like, man, the end is near. And especially if you've got your child in a high school credit bearing class, like algebra or some of our world languages, on grades, A's, B's, maybe C's. And so for middle school, this is a time where we still need to kind of support kids. And so I have a couple of tips, both as a parent as a longtime educator, of how to help and do it in a way that it doesn't destroy your relationship with your child, which can also happen. And so especially with adolescents, right? So a couple of things. Start it with conversations. And hopefully this is a conversation that you are frequently having. When your kid comes home, asking them, what did you learn today? And notice the word learn, not what did you do, right? Because there's a difference between learning and doing. being able to ask open-ended questions like, oh, how was school today? Fine. What did you learn today? Nothing. Oh, really? I need to talk to your teacher about that then, because if you're learning nothing, that son and my daughter about what are you learning? Then being able to transition to like, what are you learning in class and how are you showing that learning? What are some of those assessments? What are some of those projects? And so as we think about learning being the ultimate paramount, what we want kids to be able to do, but we do know that both as parents and sometimes as kids, we're kind of short-sighted in what's my grade? And we do want to earn relatively strong grades here in middle school. I will point out that middle school is a perfect time to actually be failing and to making mistakes. And so we don't want to be a helicopter or a lawnmower parent that is always just clearing out every obstacle in front of them. But we also want to be able to provide some oversight as during these middle years, kids are learning those executive functioning skills in order to find success in their class. But again, because as we're moving to high school, where we think about it as the big leagues, and ideally, many of us have college aspirations for our students, we want them to be well prepared to advocate. So looking at synergy together, kids look at their grades relatively frequently. And if they don't, we should probably help make sure that they are looking at parent view. How many of you as a parent have either parent view or student view on your phone? All right. So if you don't, like we'll talk a little bit about downloading that so that we ourselves can kind of see how things are going. I've got it on my phone. I look at my kids' progress. Being able to identify missing assignments, scores that might need improvement. And then sometimes, and this becomes the real challenge with our kids and how little they communicate with us. Sometimes it's just grunts or things like that. Being able to know in a particular class, if a grade is low or if there are missing assignments, what does the teacher even allow? And that can be a lot of question. Over the years, we have heard from parents that middle school is incredibly frustrating because they go from elementary school where one teacher who will often send out a weekly newsletter and tell us what's happening, and we can kind of keep that in our mind. Now the child comes and there's 7 different classes. And it feels like the teachers all have different ways of grading or where assignments get turned in or whether they're using OneNote or whether all these different things. And that's overwhelming. So we tried as a school this year to actually try to have every teacher put information all into an accessible place. Teacher emails all have that as a link, but we've actually put that up on our website. And so I actually wanted to take a minute and actually show you that. Because if you haven't navigated to our new school website, I do encourage you to. For us, bsd405.org/Tillicum takes us to our Tillicum website. And so I'm actually going to move this over here so hopefully everyone can see. But this is our Tillicum Middle School. My notices about the weekly Tillicum Times newsletters. But on our hamburger menu, which is right here, the hamburger menu allows you to go and see different things that are happening at school. And under academics, we actually have class information. This is where we put information from each of our departments. So let's imagine that your child is in, I don't know, 7th grade or even 8th grade algebra with Miss Agarwal. We could go to the math department and see each of our math teachers and to see how do I contact the teacher by email, as well as how do I see information about the class. We put them all on a Microsoft Sway page. So every teacher did one of these. Miss Agarwal, when we go to her Sway page, you can see that as her name at the top. And then it begins to give some information about what she teaches, how her assignments are listed. She puts them all in Student OneNote Content Library, which is arranged by units. Many teachers use OneNote pretty extensively, but not all of them. How homework is submitted and what her late work policy is. Towards the end of the semester, this is where we often want to know, like, hey, can I turn in a late assignment? How is it accepted? And how does the grading work? So she actually says homework completion does not count towards the grade, but it is required to be complete to retake a test for each unit. Many of our teachers are moving towards the idea of standards-based grading, and where student knowledge is, or grades are assigned by how students demonstrate their learning on assessments. And homework, a ritually compliant activity, some kids may not actually need to do that. Most of them do. And so in her class, she's like, I want you to do your homework. I encourage you to do it, but your assessments will be graded. And then if it turns out that you want to reassess, well, now you're demonstrating you need more practice. And so it looks like she says, you don't have to do your homework, but when you get a low grade and you want to reassess it, well, then you do need to turn it in. So she has some information about that. And for each teacher, you can kind of see information about their grading policy and things like that. I'm hoping that for, in particular, our core content subjects like language arts and social studies, math and science, that being able to have some of this information at parents' fingertips or even kids' fingertips can help avoid some of those like conversations like, well, what does Miss Agrawal do? Can you turn late assignments in? I don't know. No, it's too late. I'm hosed. And so this is a way that we have tried to add a little bit of progress. So that gives a little bit of an idea about that website and how we might use it. It's passing period right now. I'm sure those of you online don't know, but we've got some kids moving through the cafe, got some waving going on. All right. Today is Friday, and we're running a modified schedule because we have our Martin Luther King Jr. recognition lesson a little bit later today. So y'all can still hear me okay? All right, good. Okay, so those are some of the conversations that you can and should have. Question? Yes, Megan. Yes. So Megan just asked, what advice do you have on encouraging your child to reach out to teachers? And what I recommend, and I do this with my child all the time, many middle school teachers will say, we want to hear from your child. And if the parent just goes straight to the teacher, sometimes teachers almost hold them at arm's length. And part of that is wanting to build this advocacy. But what I almost frequently do is with my child is we look through assignments and we're saying, hey, you're missing a bunch of stuff in English. I don't even understand what you're missing, and you don't understand either. I want you to write an email to Miss, Soul right now. And so, and then I want to, and before you send it, I want you to show it to me, right? And so helping our kids write emails is a way that I've done it. Our teachers often have 150 kids, and it is relatively infrequently where teachers are proactively reaching out to say, hey, Zoe has a C in my class. She's got 6 missing assignments. She could very easily be earning a B or an A. They might be thinking about their D's and F's. But as a parent, we're like, you can be doing better in this class than you are. What's going on? There's 4 missing assignments, right? So helping your child to write that email is definitely a very appropriate middle level support that a parent could do. Does that make sense? Great. I'm going to quickly pop over here to see if there's either any other questions, chats. Okay. All right. Let me move on to the next page because there are a couple things. Oh, I did just show you that teacher class information. So we had gone through Miss Agrawal, looked at her page. Okay. The other really important tool that I hope all parents are using is Synergy, either student view or parent view. And as a parent myself and as an educator in the district, I both love Synergy, and at times it takes some getting used to. It's a little bit frustrating. So what I highly recommend as we are working with our kids, we want to develop conversations. And so rather than looking at Synergy parent view all by yourself at home and then getting all upset and then busting in on our kid, like, why do you have 7 missing assignments in science? It is much better, as I said, to sit down with your child. What are you learning? Let's take a look at your synergy. Will you bring up your student view? When your child brings it up on their computer, or even for us on our computer, they're probably going to see a screen kind of like this. This is one of our students. I took their name out, and you can see that they have some grades ranging from an A down to a C. You can also see on that home screen, oh, and by the way, I'm over when I log into Synergy Student View, or when my child does, I always click on Gradebook. Otherwise, it just gives me a little overview information. And I can see each of the grades. Now, when you actually want to dig into some of the classes, if I click either on Algebra 1 or, for example, Semester 1 Final, meaning what the semester final grade is, either of these will take me to a place where initially I will see what's called the course content view. I'm not a big fan of the course content view. It defaults to this. And what you'll notice is that in Miss Agrawal's class, where this student currently has a B, it is showing way back in September each of the learning targets and then maybe how the kid did. This student got a 4 out of 4 there, so was actually even exceeding standard. This can be really confusing. So I like to come up and click on the assignment view. I find assignment view to be much more helpful. When you click on assignment view, it gives you much better information and it actually works backwards. Notice January 16th, learning target 3. I can solve a system of equations by graphing. And I can see, and it looks like some of these scores aren't even due yet. But if we go back to in late December, this student got a 3 out of a rubric score of 4. The teachers will also, if they put in comments, and quite a few teachers do use comments, they will put in the comments and you can see that, oh, this student is missing, does that say missing test? They somehow still got a 3. Maybe they had come in and adjusted it. We can also see that this student back here in October has now a 4 on this learning target, and that was a retake score. Some of the teachers will use the comments quite extensively. They will say, hey, you have a 0 right now because you haven't turned it in, or it'll give some information. It's taken me a while to learn that going and clicking on content view is a way better way of looking at stuff. So I say all this right now just to give you some of my own experience as a parent, and that kids are also looking at this. And sometimes we even need to teach our students what view is going to be most helpful. If you haven't done so already on your own mobile phone, I do encourage you to download either on App Store or on Google Play the Synergy Parent View app. You can have it on your phone, and it just gives you a quick reference to look at their grades, their attendance. Again, beware, don't just perseverate this on by yourself. These are conversations to have with your child. But sometimes if your child is texting you after school, it's like, hey, can I just walk down to the mall with my friends or go here? It's like, hey, do you have, how are your grades looking? How was your attendance today? Things like that. There's just a lot of good information that can come to our phone. If any of you have trouble with sometimes an activation code, you can always reach out to me or our registrar, Leslie Astudillo, and they can sometimes resend activation codes because that is part of what you have to do to sign up. So I'm going to pause for just a moment there because I talked a lot about just how we support our kids in the last couple weeks, thinking about the end of the semester, any of the missing assignments they have, projects that they may be able to kind of make sure that are hopefully fully completed. Many of our teachers do accept late and missing work, but kind of up to a point. Like if we wait until next Thursday before the end of semester, it's too late, right? So this is the time to be looking at it, and perhaps this weekend, hey, let's make a plan for the next week or two. Let's get you attending some tutorial. Let's send some email messages to see hey, what can I do? Can I still turn in this assignment? All right, I'm going to pause to see what questions you may have or if there is something related to the end of the semester that you might want to bring up. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Yep. So Elena is pointing out that on these small phones, it's hard to see. It just goes straight to course content view. It's kind of clunky. And so you swipe right on your screen so you can go over and click on the assignment view. That's the one to look at. All right. Yes, Paul. Yep. Yes. Yep. No. So correct. Paul's question is, as we think about today being the last day for open transfer requests, if any current Tillicum students, do they need to do anything if you just plan for them to matriculate to your home school or to the school where the language program is going? And you don't need to do anything. If you are a Tillicum student in the Mandarin Dual Language program, then I believe you will automatically be coded to go on to Newport. If you are a general education student and you live on the northern part of our attendance area, you will be coded to go to Sammamish. Now, if you want to perhaps go to Interlake instead, you would need to make that transfer request. And so I do have another question here in a little bit from a family related just to open transfer and to high school. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Any other questions related to grades, end of the year, stuff like that? Comment, yes. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, and Kylie is saying that in her experience, many of our middle school teachers do accept late work, even if it was from September. So, and hopefully in a perfect world as parents, we're supporting our kids through September, October, November. But we know that life happens and we can be like, wow, you have 11 missing assignments in social studies. So then we begin to triage to say, okay, where are we going to start? And if they end up getting that lower grade, it's a perfect learning experience. Most of our middle school courses actually run just for a quarter. First quarter, 9 weeks, then you start over and it's like, oh, now you can start brand new again in second quarter to see how your grade goes. As we go to third quarter, we will again start over. If your child is in a high school credit earning class, like algebra or some of those world languages, those are actually graded on an entire semester. So algebra is like, oh, we're coming to the end of September all the way up through January. So, all right, let's move on. I received a couple of questions from some parents, and so I wanted to bring those up. Some of them are relevant, and it may be that some of, whoops, what did I just do? Just, sorry. Where did my mouse go? There we go. We'll do a little F5. Oops, sorry. I'm going to zip ahead. All right. I think I am still sharing. Yep. Okay. So one of the questions that I received came from a parent talking about visiting high schools this week, right? If you've got an 8th grader, you may have gone to some of the open houses. As we visited high school this week, we came to understand the academic rigor of Newport High School is quite high. How is Tillicum preparing our students for the challenges of high school? And really that kind of goes regardless of where our children are going. Parents want to know, as our kids go to the big leagues, are they going to be prepared? And what I can share is both as a career educator in Bellevue, as well as a parent, is that Bellevue School District does a really good job with preparing kids for success in high school. And so I have a couple points I just wanted to make. First, middle school is that time where our middle school instructors, it is no longer junior high. It's not just a small version of high school. It is actually a middle level where we not only teach some academic content, but we care deeply about trying to teach those executive functioning and SEL skills that are going to allow our kids to be more independent. Middle school is also a good time to fail. And sometimes to let a kid fail over the course of a quarter and then to say, How did that work? How do we want to prepare and do something different? Now, for those of us who are sending our kids on to high school, we want them hopefully in high school to be earning A's, B's, C's, like we want to avoid those D's and F's. What I have found is that Bellevue School District is well known for having, all the way back from Dr. Riley in the late 90s and 2000s, a pretty well articulated K-12 curriculum, so that what we are able to provide students in 9th grade up to 12th grade, that students are well prepared with a strong foundation. So we've got an articulated K-12 curriculum. It's rooted in Common Core state standards, and oftentimes it's accelerated. So specifically in math, almost every one of our kids in 9th grade is taking algebra. And that is just for general education, where for at least myself, when I was a high school student, algebra was a high school level course. And then we will have students that are part of our advanced learning program or even further accelerated. So we do find that as kids go on to high school, they are pretty well prepared. We try to do a lot of vertical collaboration as well with high school staff and the disciplines. And that's in particular for our math teachers, because we're teaching algebra and geometry at the middle school level, as well as those are also being taught at high school. So some of our professional development with those teachers goes along to make sure, hey, what we doing? Are our kids coming to you well prepared? Also in language, particularly Spanish, Chinese, and French. But with our MDL, Mandarin Dual Language, and our ESA program, we try to do quite a bit of collaboration. And as we look at student success over time, kids are going to high school and they're continuing to find success. It is true that in high school, especially if kids start taking some advanced placement classes, that there is more homework. Over the last probably 2 decades, a lot of research about homework has come out to say, what is its efficacy? What is its purpose? And especially at the elementary and the middle levels, homework has very little correlation to student success. And so we've actually gotten away from that at elementary and middle levels. In high school, especially as kids are preparing for advanced placement classes, and you may have teachers who are more focused on a discipline, you may see some more traditional type classes with some teachers providing a lot of homework, potentially quite a bit of reading. And so sometimes kids will come and say, gosh, this AP World History class at sophomore in Newport, there was a lot of reading. And so what I like to say is that we are preparing kids well, but we need to know our child, and we also have to be really careful about the system-wide messaging that's happening amongst our kids and amongst fellow families. We live in a very, hold on, someone just joined us. We're going to invite them into the conversation, admit. Here in Bellevue, and particularly at Newport High School and at Interlake High School, we have a very strong academic culture. And it is not uncommon sometimes to see students feeling like they need to take 4, 5, and 6 AP classes. That partially is born out of a time back in the early 2000s when Dr. Riley, our superintendent, wanted to make advanced placement open to everyone. We didn't want to gatekeep, which often closed out some of our marginalized student groups. We don't gatekeep. And that was a wonderful thing, and it allowed kids from all sorts of backgrounds to take high-level academic courses. In my opinion, it has gone too far, where we have kids that are stressed out, they're overwhelmed, and some of them end up having some major mental health as well as suicidal ideation. So now I would say from about 2012 until now, teachers and schools, we try to preach a lot of balance, and we want kids to take challenging courses in the areas that are passion areas. Some kids can handle those 3, 4, 5 AP classes, but we need to know our children, and we as parents need to avoid the pressure that comes from other parents and kids feel from each other. So a little of my own kind of just soapbox, but I can tell you that our Tillicum kids are well prepared in math, in ELA, in language, science. They find success at all 4 of our high schools, which continue to have the common articulated curriculum. Each high school has a little bit of its own culture and climate. And so as your child is matriculating up, you may also want to do some of your own feel, like, where is my kid going to go? We do have some more choice right now. Many of our families do just continue to your feeder school, partially because it's close geographically. Many of their friends are going there. But so long answer to kind of a short question. Tillicum students do quite well as they move to high school. I'll pause for a moment to see if there's any kind of comments, questions from anyone here in the audience or here in person. Yes. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So the question is about our International Spanish Academy, and right now students do have a choice to either continue to take Spanish Academy classes at Newport High School or at Sammamish. It used to only be at Newport, and then 10 years ago we started offering it more at Sammamish, and so now it's a little bit split. So kids are making choices, and we will ask families and students to make that choice. Where are you going? And being part of ESA, you are eligible to go to either without having to do the open transfer request. Yeah, and I think that's also true for Mandarin dual language. A large proportion of our MDL students do go on to Newport, but we do have MDL students that can also take Chinese classes, continue at Sammamish. And then our general education students, they are kind of targeted based on where your address is. So, good question. Elena? Yep. Mm. Yeah.
I thought that was really, really cool to inspire the younger kids to kind of stay with the program.
For sure. Yeah, there's the comment that at each of our high schools, especially for students in language models, the high schools in particular try to find opportunities for kids to actually go back either to Jingmei or to Puesta and to do some volunteering, a way to continue to stay immersed in the language. So, great. I did have one other question, and I'm just going to skip ahead to this one. This was a little bit of an odd question, and so I'm actually going to just share briefly, but if one of you is either here in the audience or online, there was the question that said, do teachers and staff use culturally responsive teaching methods that regularly include disability culture? So there are a lot of language within there, and some of it is words that may be politically charged and things like that. So I'm not familiar with the word disability culture, so I actually went and looked it up, and I am very familiar with culturally responsive teaching. So I'll give a little bit of definition, and then I'll talk about what I've experienced at Tillicum. So disability culture is people with all different kinds of disabilities sharing a lot of things in common, and then perhaps gathering around each other to support one another. The example that they put there, if you're born with a disability, you probably experience special education when you're in school, or perhaps working to receive accommodations in the classroom. And that could be a common experience. If you're older, if you join the disability community later in life, it might be experiencing trying to find accessible housing, a job that will provide accommodations. And so I think the idea with disability culture is probably trying to perhaps elevate and recognize that students with disabilities, it's not necessarily a culture like an ethnicity or a race that maybe your parents may or may not have. And so like if you're born hard of hearing, your parents may not be. And so there are almost like tribes and communities that help support and gather around both the parents and the students. So that's kind of what I gathered from that word. Now, culturally responsive teaching and learning are those practices that actively acknowledge and incorporate students' cultural backgrounds, their languages, and life experiences into the classroom in order to create a learning environment where students feel seen, valued, and connected. As a school that in the last, and a district that in the last 10 or 15 years has been really preaching and promoting racial equity and inclusion, we've done quite a bit of learning and talk about recognizing that one of the very first things that people see or know about me is often the color of my skin. And my racial and cultural experience comes with a lot of privilege as a white male. And other people, there's all sorts of systemic and institutional discrimination. So in a teaching staff that has traditionally been largely white, and at elementary female, at middle just largely white, we have worked to try to hire teachers that look and like the students that we serve, increasingly diverse. And even for myself as a white male educator, trying to learn, how do I have practices that include, that promote inclusivity, and recognizing how some different students learn within different cultural contexts. So there is quite a bit of education and thought around culturally responsive teaching and learning. The idea of disability culture, I think what we're trying to do, and I don't think we're as good, is to also recognize and affirm that everyone has strengths and growth areas. And so that if we have students with disability, whether it's hard of hearing, special education, learning disability, different disabilities with health, that we are able to acknowledge that and not think of that as a less than, but be able to just say, how do we both acknowledge it? How do we promote that? And at times, how do we celebrate it? So I don't know if I answered that question for whoever asked that, because I don't know if it's supposed to be a negative or a positive thing, or if it's a political thing there, but I thought I'd talk for just a couple minutes about what I've seen, is that our teachers do try to create inclusive classroom practices that are going to elevate student voice, elevate their experience, and have them feel seen, heard, and known. And all of that is part of being part of a community that tries to increase sense of belonging. So, I'm happy to answer any other questions that you may have. It is about 8:50. We're definitely kind of coming to the end. So I appreciate those of you who came, but I do want to open up for any other questions, comments. This is our time for just what else is going on. What questions do you have about our school, our district, our budget, all that fun stuff? Yes, Megan. Yep, budget question. Yep.
Whether that was like since January 1 or what, but
yeah.
But then it was like, okay, so requested for my.
Mm-hmm.
So like, is there a way to get?
Yeah, so the question is that some teachers may have asked families, hey, can you help provide, some school supplies, whether it's pencils or things like that. And your question is, how might we potentially do this in a larger or more concerted way? And I think that is a good question. And so as a school and school district, we have always committed to providing students the instructional materials that they need. As our MSOC budget, materials, supplies, and operating costs, got cut by 30%, I basically told all our teachers, we're really trying to be a little bit tighter. And so I think teachers are trying to be somewhat frugal, but we haven't been really good yet about saying how we do it. And honestly, it's a little bit awkward, and we may be a school that might be able to do that a little bit more than some of our other schools. So I don't have a good answer, and it's something that we as a building leadership team and honestly as an administration need to figure out, how and when do we go begging for our school supplies. But Kylie has a comment. Yep, go ahead, I'll pass it.
So I was just going to say that as a PTA, we're always, encouraging staff to apply for grants because we have support that we can offer. We just don't know what is needed from teachers. We also have a teacher like wish list, so we can possibly as a PTA reach out to the teachers and add that to their likes list that we have. Yeah, like if they have a link to an Amazon wish list or requests.
Yeah.
So as a
That's
PTA,
great.
we'll try and do that. Yeah.
And that's why it's really important for you to donate to the PTA. And it's also tax deductible because without your donations, it doesn't get done. And if you donate directly to the teachers, it's not tax deductible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I think to Paul's point, that's a good one as we think about ways to be able to support in the midst of a budget crisis, rather than my teachers just reaching out individually saying, hey, can you donate? It's probably good for us to be more organized and say, families can make donations either to a school district or to our PTA, which can then, through a grant process, be able to say, how do we distribute funds well? Yes.
Can I add one more thing? Also, if you donate to the PTA, depending on your employer, the funds can be matched. So that's actually quite a significant part of our budget as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Oh yeah. Here, will you pass the mic over, Paul?
It's not a question, but it's just a comment. I really appreciate how proactive our PTA is about posting information about what the school needs. And Trisha just posted the Sign Up Genius of what our nurse need. And then that's always because I really want to contribute, but we don't know exactly what we should bring. And then that was so helpful to know what our nurse actually needs in the nurse's office. So that's always, it's not a question, it's just a comment.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Any other comments, questions? Hey, all of you online, you can ask questions too. It's been a quiet online day. Let's see if there's anything down there. Okay. Well, if not, I wish you all a wonderful weekend. Enjoy that bonus day with your children on Monday. Tag, you're it. Look forward to hopefully seeing many of you at our January 31st Lunar New Year celebration. It's going to be here at school. It's going to be really fun. So have a great weekend, and thank you all for coming. All right. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Actually, that would be great. Just right over.